Well, what a week on Capitol Hill. Let's talk about it with Republican member of the Michigan delegation. Good to have Congressman John James back on the program. Congressman, thanks very much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Have you been able to assess just what it was that we watched unfold over the last week?
Well, I literally had a front row seat. And
you sure did. In fact, we saw you right behind as those speeches were being made this week.
Yeah, I have a face for radio. Even my mother contacted me and asked me if I'm getting enough sleep. But yeah, in seriousness, I don't think that we're going to be able to comprehend this for quite some time. This is the first time that a speaker has been deposed in American history.
Right.
So this, I believe, is a major blow to the institution, and I think that we have to all work together, regardless of Democrat or Republican, to help get Congress back on the right footing, because there are Americans counting on us to do the right thing.
As we move forward, regardless of who the speaker, we'll obviously get to what your thoughts are on that in a moment, but do we need to change this system that allows one vote to upend the whole office? I mean, it's been in place for many, many years.
Well, we've known that the system in Washington, D.C. was broken for a very, very long time, and nowhere has it been on more display than in the past week. I've said for the longest time that both parties have failed the American people, and nowhere was it on display more than folks like the Gates 8 that made essentially the Speaker of the House walk the plank, and supported by a Democrat Party 100%. Rather than figuring out a way to move us forward as a nation together. I'm looking forward to getting back to work in D.C., putting us on a strong footing, because we have a lot of things to deal with. We need to make sure that we fund the government in the next 40 days. We need to make sure we secure our border. China and Russia are getting more aggressive, and our national standing is beginning to slip. There are people who are hurting because of inflation right here in Southeast Michigan, and we need to address those issues, not the soap opera going on D.C.
We just barely avoided a government shutdown a week ago. You voted in favor of keeping the government up and running, but are we now, no matter who, whether it's Steve Scalise, Jim Jordan, a name we don't know yet, are we going to be closer to a government shutdown because of what happened this past week?
Every minute that passes on this reality show BS, we get closer to shutting down the government. And so my goal is to have a speaker who will work with anyone and everyone to make sure that we keep our government running, to make sure that we address our debt, to make sure we address our sinful overspending, make sure we secure our border, and lower inflation for people back here. So I believe that continuity and stability will do that, which is what I'm going to be working intently on when I get back to D.C.
Then I guess the tough question is who is that person? Who right now are you envisioning or wanting to see as the next Speaker of the House?
I've endorsed Steve Scalise. I believe that he is the majority leader right now, and I believe that right now what we desperately need is continuity and stability, and be able to have that next man up strategy. And we see it from businesses to even football. The Lions are playing. They're great, going to be 4-1 after this weekend. And there's a mentality that, tragically, when someone goes down, the next person has to come up. And being able to bring that expertise, that know-how, and putting us in the best position to get the most conservative possible legislation that can pass a Democrat Senate, that can be signed by a Democrat president, that will help my district. That's the goal, and we need to have someone who's willing to work with everyone to get that done.
There was even talk about trying to recruit Donald Trump to being the next speaker. He put his thumb on the scale for Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
What does that do to the, do you think that all of a sudden tilts the scale in favor of Jim Jordan?
Yeah, that remains to be seen, but as far as I'm concerned, I reserve the right to vote in the best interest of my district at any point in time, and right now what's in the best interest of my district is making sure that I get legislation passed, like my Reignite Hope Act, that is bringing back the child tax credit to $4,500 for parents with children 0 to 5, and for children 6 to 17, $3,500, and also investing in care workers, mental health care workers, elder care workers, and child care workers, firefighters, police officers in this Reignite Hope Act. These are the types of things that are going to be addressing working families and opportunity zones. And those are the types of bills that we need to pass to help everyday working Americans in our districts.
I'm curious, obviously you've been spending a lot of time talking to your fellow Republicans over the last couple of weeks. What is happening in talking with just the Michigan delegation? Are you spending much time with, for instance, the Democrats of Michigan? Are you all still focused on what we need in the state, or has it been so splintered by partisan politics that those conversations are breaking down right now?
Now, among the biggest things that I've spoken with on a bicameral and a bipartisan standpoint is actually suffrage. In just 9 months, in my freshman term, I was able to get the authorization and appropriations to increase capacity for fighter aircraft for Selvager Air National Guard base. Now that it's passed the House, we need the Senate to take it up. And having Senator Peters on the Senate Armed Services Committee, hopefully he will take up my amendments and get those through to increase capacity for Selfridge. And those are the types of things that we're focused on doing on a bipartisan, bicameral standpoint, because there are needs back here in the district, and that's my primary concern.
That's why I'm curious as to whether you feel like the headlines are matching the reality. Do you feel like there are still things getting done behind the scenes, or does it match what we watch? If you watch cable news, you'd swear that civil war is breaking out in the hallways right now of Capitol Hill.
Yeah, but we have to stay focused, and I've actually been to battle. And when you have the fog of war, focus is critical. I'm focused on another bill that we have, the Road to Recovery Act, that's going to be giving more resources to people who are struggling with mental health. These are the types of things that are bipartisan in nature and addressing the issues that are going on right now. I'm not as concerned with the soap opera going on in Washington, D.C. I'm concerned with the horror show that's going on back in our district. We just found enough fentanyl pills. I believe it's 19,000 fentanyl pills that were disguised as Adderall. And parents all over the district, all over the country, are going upstairs to check on their kid who they think is studying, and they're finding them dead in their bedrooms. This is something that is affecting each and every single one of us because we have open borders, because we have a mental health crisis. And you may not know this, but 18 to 44, ages 18 to 44, leading cause of death? Leading cause of death is suicide and overdoses. Yeah. We have to address what's going on in the districts, because what we're seeing in D.C. is a reflection of what's happening in the country.
The partisan fight over that comes, though, with things like saying that fentanyl's coming because we have open borders. Most fentanyl comes through regular legal ports of entry in America.
So the precursors coming over from China getting processed, and it's coming over from the borders. And there are many loose points of entry, whether it be at the border, whether it be airports, whether it be shipping ports. Yeah. But see, this is why it's so important to increase border security, because this actually extends to our ports as well.
I wanted to make sure we spent some time this morning talking about China and the relationship that you think the United States should have with China. If I go through your house, if you come go through my house, there's a lot of stuff made in China. Yeah. We rely on each other in ways that I'm not sure we always fully appreciate. I'm not sure we can just sort of close the door on China any more than they would close the door on us. How do you think that we can create a relationship that works for both parties?
Well, one way that we need to address is, in any relationship, you need to stop the abuse. And if there's abuse in any relationship, that's the first thing to address. And the Chinese Communist Party has been taking advantage of the American middle class, building theirs on the backs of ours for decades. The intellectual property theft, the cyber espionage. And we haven't been doing ourselves any favors. Recently, with these leftist policies that are pushing our jobs over to China overseas, this unrealistic lurch toward EVs prior to having the infrastructure that we're ready for, it's actually buoying the Chinese EV market. Frankly, their real estate market
the risk is letting China become the world leader in EVs if that's where the world is eventually going, isn't it?
The risk is becoming beholden to anyone. Maintaining our energy independence, having an all-of-the-above approach is the solution. When you have an energy secretary who's selling our strategic petroleum reserves to China, and so now our reserves, our back plan is at 1984 levels. I was 3 years old. When you refuse to mine in a humane manner in the U.S., when you refuse to drill and use natural gas here safely using American jobs in the U.S., we sacrifice our energy independence. We're more beholden to China. We need to give everybody more options and not force feed people things that they're not ready for.
I got to get to a break, but Congressman, it is always good to have these conversations with you. I appreciate the time. It's going to be a fascinating week ahead. We'll watch what happens here come, especially Tuesday or Wednesday.
Thanks a lot, David.
Thank you so much. Back with more. We'll bring in the roundtable right after this. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.